What's going on? Welcome in. This is the Joe Gaither Show on Royal Central, the home of the Kansas City Royals on SI. I'm Joe Gaither. You're watching us on the Royal Central YouTube channel or right there on my own social media machines at Joe Gaither 6 on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Or you're subscribing to us, the Joe Gaither Show on Royal Central on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or on Amazon. Had about a week off for All-Star break, and we meant to come to you last week, but I was in Dallas and we were doing some traveling, so just missed you for All-Star break. So we're going to cover a little bit of the month of July right here on the Joe Gaither Show on Royal Central with our friend Austin Bidwell. You follow him at Austin from KC and check out all their great work at Royal Central FN on the Twitter machine. Austin, how has it been? 2 weeks have come and gone. You're probably, a 3-time national champion now with your college football video game. How have your 2 weeks gone, my friend?
It's been good. Just kind of taking the break, relaxing with All-Star break, watching the Home Run Derby, watching the All-Star game, and trying to get Old Dominion to the promised land.
Well, we hope you can do that. ODU, what are they? Oh, goodness gracious. What's the Bulldogs?
The Monarchs.
Monarchs. All right. We'll take them to the promised land, rebuild Old Dominion. But let's talk about the Kansas City Royals, and let's start with the All-Star break and the All-Star game. Actually, I guess we should start the Monday night before because Bobby Witt Jr. put on an absolute show. Now, lost runner-up to Teoscar Hernandez, but put on a show. Really showing his skills as a power hitter. Let's just start with Home Run Derby. What'd you take away from our man Bobby Witt Jr. finishing second place down in Dallas?
Yeah, I mean, he went out and he showed that he has the power. I thought it was great. He had, I believe, the most home runs hit total in the Derby, the most home runs hit over 425 feet in the Derby, most. He was putting the baseball over the fence. It sucks that he was 1 run short. And that last ball that he hit, it looked way gone and it fell just short. Teoscar's obviously great, but I thought it was really cool that he beat out a lot of really good hitters. One Gunnar Henderson, he outlasted. A lot of people say that Gunnar beats him in power and that's why he's better, but Bobby, maybe that's not necessarily true. So yeah, it was really cool to see. Bobby did great, and hopefully see him again sometime in the future.
Absolutely, it was a great event. It was nice to have the Royals front and center right there at the end of the event. So congratulations to Bobby Witt Jr. putting on a really, really good show and maybe sticking it to the folks who are backing old Gunnar Henderson. Let's talk about Tuesday, though. Tuesday, American League beats the National League. What was it, 5-3, I believe it was. The American League wins again, but the Royals players didn't really have a whole. I mean, Cole Reagan's one inning, no runs allowed, and you had Seth Lugo 1 inning, no runs allowed. Each of them allowed a hit. I think Reagan's allowed 1, and Seth Lugo allowed 2. But outside of that, I mean, Bobby Witt Jr. and Salvador Perez weren't really that impactful in the game. What was your takeaways for the American League winning the All-Star game and really how the Royals performed?
Yeah, so I mean, the All-Star game it's becoming less of a competitive event, definitely. It's a fun thing. People are out there. Seth Lugo didn't end up getting the start for the All-Star game, but I thought it was really cool that they waited to have Lugo and Reagan start or come into pitch until Salvador Perez was in the game to catch for him. So, I mean, it's always cool when you could have a pitcher-catcher combo for multiple pitchers in back-to-back innings in an All-Star game at any time. But in a season like this where the Royals have shown so much promise and these guys are breaking out, it's just been, it's a really cool experience. It doesn't really matter how they played. The pitchers both played well. They didn't allow a run. But it's just a fun weekend. It's a fun event for the fans, a fun event for the players, and just them being there, I think, in itself should be enough for a lot of people.
All right, let's talk about the big story in the All-Star game that wasn't really involving the game itself. The uniforms. Austin, why can't we get the Kansas City Royals home or away, in this case, home uniforms out there? Get that baby with the script across their chest. Those ugly All-Star games. Are you part of the problem? Are you one of the young kids that are buying these uniforms, buying these ugly All-Star game uniforms?
Yeah, I didn't buy the uniforms, but I don't hate them as much as everyone else does. I'll say that. I think that they're fine. They're whatever. I think that they should just put some more team branding on, like the NFL does. With the the helmets have all the decals on them still and everything like that. I don't mind something like that. I would love for them to go back to the regular jerseys, but I don't. I kind of like the new ones. I think that they're cool. They could be a little better designed, but I like the color schemes that they go with and having the two teams go against each other. But I do hear a lot about that and how a lot of people dislike that.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you're part of the problem. Put the home team, in this case, the Rangers, put the American League in the home jerseys. Everybody's wearing white, and the National League's in their grays, and vice versa. The years, I guess next year's in Atlanta, so it'll be vice versa. And you slap a big old All-Star Game patch on that Kansas City Royals uniform. I mean, it's all about selling uniforms, right? So let the Royals fans buy the Royals uniform with the All-Star Game patch on it. You'll still sell your uniforms, but the game itself will look a lot better.
I don't disagree. I would love to see a Royals City Connect jersey with a big All-Star patch on it. You don't got to convince me too much.
All right, so let's move into the second half of July, because tonight the Kansas City Royals are getting started a 3-game set with the Chicago Cubs. We've had, 6 games since the All-Star break. You played against the Cubs and you played against the Diamondbacks. Oh, excuse me. You played against the White Sox and you played against the Diamondbacks. Sweeping the White Sox at home. You took 1 from the Diamondbacks, so you lost that series, but you're 4-2 post All-Star break. What do we think? What have we seen in these 6 games getting the season restarted from their time in Dallas?
Yeah, so the White Sox series was a perfect combination of Royals baseball in terms of hitting, in terms of pitching, in terms of base running. It was to a T what Royals baseball could and should be. And unfortunately, that came against a team like the White Sox, who the White Sox. So you wanted to see it against the Diamondbacks in the first game. I think that a lot of people saw it still, in that big win. Yeah. And then the next 2 games, it's back into the Royals rotation. They got Alec Marsh, and then it was Michael Wacha in the most recent game. So that's not, it's not Royals premier pitchers, but even in one of those games, the Royals were up in the 9th inning. On a play that, there was an out with 2 strikes, a pitch that landed inside of the illustrated strike zone on a strike him out, throw him out. That was called a ball and sent the runner to first base on a walk. And, there's other reasons you lose that game. I'm not saying that's why they lost that game at all, but I'm saying that when you have games that close, it's hard to be upset at a team for being in that situation, especially in the back end of the rotation after they came off of a sweep and a 4-game win streak. You're not going to win every game. And they made a lot of ground on the Guardians in the first White Sox series. So the Guardians lost 2 of their games. The Twins lost, I believe, 2 of their games. So, the Royals started off way worse than they are now at the beginning of this return from All-Star break. So over the last 6 games, they've really come out hot, despite the last 2 games. And I think this series will be a great chance for them to prove that wasn't a fluke first 4 games, and at the top of their rotation can keep it going against a team like Chicago.
Whew, man, you get the Cubs and the White Sox, so back-to-back Chicago teams to close out the month. Really not good baseball right now for the Cubs and obviously the White Sox. I actually got to be in Chicago on Tuesday, and the Brewers beat them 1-0. So got to go out and get 5 of these next 6 to close down the month of July. You're 5.5 games behind the Guardians. And if you close down the month of July with 2 strong series, I mean, maybe 5 of 6 is a little too much to ask for, but you got to win both these series. Can you go into really August with the Guardians still right there? And obviously we got the trade deadline looming over us in a couple of days. Really, just how big are these last 2 series in the month of July?
Yeah, so I mean, you look at it and look at the Guardians' schedule over the last 6 games, and they're slowing down. I mean, everyone can see it; they're slowing down. At least what it's looked like coming out of the gates of All-Star break. The Twins, have been a little better since coming out, but they've also not been great. The Royals have been the best team in the AL Central since the return from All-Star break, whether it be because of competition, because of this or that. Record-wise, that's what it says. And if you win these last 2 series going into August and the Guardians continue to have a sporadic, end of the month, it's very possible that you go into a fresh month with some big games prepared to, make a push at not only the division title, but maybe a wild card if you need. at the end of the day, because the Royals are right there. 5 games behind in baseball is like being a game and a half back in the NBA. So it's not nothing. It's not anything that the Royals need to be panicked about, but it's something that they could be optimistic about. They can go out and perform these next 2 series like they should.
I'm seeing at the end of the month of August a huge 4-game series with the Guardians. So everything could be changed in 30 days here if they continue to handle their business. You got the Tigers, Red Sox, Cardinals, Twins, Reds, Angels, and Phillies all on deck in the month of August.
Mm-hmm.
Before you get to August, though, you're going to hit the trade deadline, Austin Bidwell. And part of the trade deadline, we've talked about it a couple of different times, is shoring up the Royals bullpen. I'm reading on ESPN basically in the last day or two, trade targets. This is from Bradford Doolittle and David Schoenfield. These guys have picked out Texas Rangers closer Kirby Yates as the target for the Kansas City Royals. What do you think about Kirby Yates? And what do you think about maybe adding him to this Royals bullpen? Or maybe are there any other targets that you think the Royals could zero in on?
Yeah, so Kirby Yates is obviously a great pitcher. The Rangers team is not as good as they have been in previous years, so they could look to be sellers at this deadline. With the Royals being better than they were expected to be, could be buyers of the deadline, obviously. A guy that like Kirby Yates is a guy that the Royals could use in the bullpen because, in all honesty, that's the Royals' weakest spot on their team. That's the spot where they need their arm the most, or they need help the most, or an acquisition the most from the deadline. So whether it be a guy like Kirby Yates, whether it be any other relief pitcher, I think that what is evident is that the Royals need help in the bullpen. They went out and they got a guy like Hunter Harvey who could be good, but has not proven that he is a usable weapon or is a usable asset. Was having an okay year in Washington. Came over in his first start. He kind of got beat up for the Royals, so there's still a lot left to be seen with Hunter Harvey after that trade. But what's clear is the Royals need an acquisition in their bullpen, and whether that is someone like Yates or that's someone else that JJ Piccolo decides on and the Royals front office decides on. As long as they go out and get an arm, I think that that's what they need in order for the Royals fans to really take this trade deadline as a success.
Well, do you think that really they're going to be aggressive? The Royals will be aggressive. You got 7 days until the deadline. Really next Wednesday. So that's 5 days until the deadline. Do you think the Royals will be aggressive, or do you think they're going to stay pat, or maybe even go the opposite way and sell some talent?
Yeah, so sell is probably the last thing that'll happen, in my opinion, just based off how they've played coming out of All-Star break and the surge that has been seen from some of the young guys. JJ Piccolo, the Royals GMs, has said that he wants to go out and get talent and build a winning team, but GMs talk, front offices say things that aren't always true. So I would hope for the Royals' sake, if I was a GM, I would absolutely be aggressive this trade deadline and try to go out and get somebody. But I'm not the GM, so I think we'll just have to wait and see what JJ Piccolo says. He has expressed desire to go out and be aggressive and win games earlier in the season and throughout this season, specifically at in the outfield or in the bullpen. But we can only see if he pulls the trigger on a trade closer to the deadline.
All right, we've been hanging out with Austin Bidwell, Austin from KC on the Twitter machine. You're following him, reading all of his work, Kansas City Royals on SI. Austin, 6 games left in the month of July. You got two series with the Chicago teams. What is the expectation? I said 5 of 6. Am I out of bounds with my with my standards there for the Royals this weekend?
I don't think so at all. I mean, you look at the pitching rotation and the way that the lineups are coming up. First, you have, you have the Cubs coming up. We have Seth Lugo, you have Cole Reagans, you have Brady Singer, who are all going to get a crack at the Cubs coming up. That is your 3 best pitchers. It is not out of the realm of possibility to say you take 2, maybe even 3 games there, and then you go into that White Sox series, a team that you just swept, a team that you just got rid of in Kauffman. It's not unviable to say you take 2 or 3 games there. So it's I say 4 and 2 probably. I'm a little less of an optimist, I think. But I think that if you don't take both of these series, you have to seriously look at what went wrong and evaluate, especially coming up on this trade deadline and coming close to your last chance to make a move to this roster and to improve, you have to figure out what goes wrong, because these are two series that the Royals should not lose. But they've lost series before that they should not lose, so we will see.
All right, we'll talk to you next week before the Detroit Tigers series kicks off on Thursday afternoon. Hopefully, we'll get one in Thursday morning. If not, we'll catch up with you right after that game one against the Tigers. Austin, thanks so much for joining us today, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a great rest of your day.
Absolutely. That's Austin Bidwell joining us, and that's going to be our edition of the Joe Gaither Show on Royals Central. You guys watched us on the Royals Central YouTube channel, or you'll check us out, Kansas City Royals on SI. You'll listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or on Amazon. We'll be back next week to continue talking about the Kansas City Royals and see if they have crawled their way back into striking distance for the AL Central.